So a story we talked about on Fox News in a prior video may turn out to be fake, and I want to show you guys what's going on. This is from Fox. They say there have been conflicting reports, and we understand the situation is extremely fluid. Sources tell Fox News that this movement is in a very early stages. And so basically Fox said that the Kurds were attacking Iran, and it looks like that's not true. I want to make sure that's clear. Fox then also says, Jennifer Griffin, clarification, I am told these are Iranian Kurds who fled in the past and have been living in Iraq. They are returning with the hopes of starting an uprising so that the people of Iran feel comfortable rising up against the remnants of the regime. U.S. official confirms to Fox News. Now, there could be multiple things going on here. Some could be true, some could be not true. The problem is with this stuff is that if you ask anybody, they're going to deny it. So let me show you an example here. This was over in Al Jazeera, okay? And the question was, the article, is the CIA planning to arm Kurdish forces to spark an uprising in Iran? Now, you probably can figure out this is highly sensitive. This is, classified type stuff. And if I ask the CIA, hey, did you give weapons to the Kurds? What are they going to say? They're probably going to deny, right? If I ask the Kurds, hey, did you get weapons from the CIA, right? They're probably going to deny it. If I ask the USA or, Israel, what's going on with the Kurd stuff, they're probably going to deny it. So you may not necessarily get the truth on any of this kind of stuff. I think my just personal opinion as we go through this, when Fox is saying they got conflicting reports, I think they certainly probably have people on the inside. Certainly, and also people in the community mentioned before, there's certainly the case as well that the U.S. or Israel could be feeding misinformation purposely to Fox, to them to leak it out there to try to get some sort of reaction from Iran. That's a possibility. But there's also a possibility that, again, some of the stuff could be true, some may not be true. But in terms of whether or not they're attacking, probably not. I haven't seen any other reports on that. And then now people are outright saying it's not true. So Clash says then latest U.S.-Israel media reports claiming Iraqi Kurdish groups launched a ground offensive in Iran have turned out to be fake. But here's the also thing is depends how you call this group. So here they're saying Iraqi Kurdish. The reason why I mention it in that way is because there are different Kurdish groups, right? So are you talking about Kurdish groups in Iran now? So for example, that's 8 to 17%. Are you talking about Kurdish groups in Iraq? That's 15 to 20% of people there, I guess. Syria, 10%, Turkey, 18 to 20%. But you could also refer to Iranian Kurds who are living in Iraq and then returning home. So there's different ways that you can think about this. And then each group may not necessarily have just one group that represents everyone, right? There could be various militant groups or various cells. And it said specifically, in some of these articles, this is from the Financial Times, that Trump was talking to a particular group that I guess no other president ever talked to before. I'll show you guys. It's hard to go through all this stuff because there's a lot of information and some stuff may or may not be, how can I say, for public knowledge, and some stuff is leaked. So for example, and you never know with this stuff. This is what just I'll show you what it says. It says, two people familiar with Trump's outreach, so Trump talking to people Kurd, right, said he spoke to Iranian Kurdish leaders, okay? This included a phone call with the senior figure in the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, KDPI, one of the oldest Iranian Kurdish dissident groups, a reported first by an American president, right? So there's going to be different groups in when you define Kurds, there'll be different groups, and within Kurds, different countries, locations, and then different, parties and such like that. It gets really tough to track all this stuff. Let's be frank with you guys. It's chaos over there. And, I'm just trying my best to keep you guys informed of sort of the inner workings of what's happening.
Just from a military standpoint, if you have a Revolutionary Guard Corps of 200,000 or however many 100,000, and you have militias inside Iran supporting the regime, and they have the weaponry, that's a big force to try to
Yeah, these reports, it's unclear what's happening here. I've spent a lot of time in these mountains with various Kurdish groups, the two main Iraqi parties, the PUK and the KDP, very close to the United States. There's a number of factions of Iranian Kurds, about 10% of the population. As Kareem said, a lot of history here. You know, if you look right where the Iraq-Turkey border intersects, Mahabad is a town about right here. This was actually the only time the Kurds had an independent republic for about a year in 1946. It was backed by the Soviet Union. They withdrew, and it was crushed by the Shah of Iran. So there's a lot of history. I agree with Corinne. This is really, first of all, very difficult work to try to get groups to work together. Unclear what the objective is. Now, listen, if we had information that there was a threat and about to be a massacre or something, you want to go in and provide some protection, that's a different thing. But this seems to be trying to set up an enclave for operations inside Iran. I think that is really opening up a Pandora's box.
And then also there's a lot of money involved with this stuff. I saw this today. Traders mint money on betting platforms on U.S.-Israeli strike on Iran. So people are betting, you know, where are they going to attack, when they're going to attack, and stuff like that. And so at the moment, if I had to say what's going on, probably not an attack at the moment. But I did see, just for example, on Al Jazeera, they were talking about there are groups moving around. And I wouldn't be shocked if there are being weapons passed around. I just wouldn't be shocked at this moment. And the game plan, it seems to be for the U.S.-Israel side is, I guess they're gonna, you know, bomb as much as they possibly can. I saw over at Fox they were bragging about 2,000-pound bombs or whatever, something like that. And then the problem is that you can't have any sort of regime change or just like any really serious revolution without support on the ground. And then does that end up going to being, you know, groups? It could be Kurdish, it could be, you know, Kurdish Iranian, or just Iranian. There's different, you know, groups. Are they, you know, just different groups? Let's put it that way. And then the Trump people then, or CIA or whoever, will try to make contact with said groups. And how can you get weapons to said groups, you know, and make sure it gets in the hands that you want to get into. And it just, it ends up being a whole mess. People in our community have already been pointing out that if you do give weapons to a particular group, say, for example, you know, a Taliban type of group, a decade from now, that comes back to haunt you, right? And if you start training certain kinds of, you know, groups, that kind of thing, to do things, it's just, it can come back to bite you. As you guys know, we know the history of what's happened in the Middle East. I'm deeply concerned about all of the people involved. I you know, want what's best for people in Iran, but I want them to choose themselves. And it's a really contentious issue, as you have foreign, you know, forces, be it the U.S. or Israel, trying to exert their will in Iran, and they've been doing that for decades. And essentially, like, they're kind of thinking, oh, we gotta do it now before Trump leaves office, because he's probably done it at midterms. So anyway, just want to go over with you guys. The main story, though, is that Fox is rolling back their story about whether or not the Kurds attacked Iran. Looks like it turned out to be not true. But whether or not there are other groups moving around or weapons passed around, I'll just say this: I think even if there are, they would probably deny it anyway, as we just talked about. So that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear yours. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.